Good evening, dear friends. I am Vidotma Daniel from Rashtriya Life Saving Society, India, short, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the webinar on the importance of the first aid in daily living and Surakshit Bharat campaign. While we wait for everyone to log in, let's look at RLSSI's 22 years long journey. now have the great pleasure in welcoming the founder president of Rashtriya Life Saving Society India, Rear Admiral P.D. Sharma. He will tell us about the importance of first aid in our daily living. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Sharma.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy that we are celebrating the World First Aid Day today. Introduced in 2000 by the International Federation of Red Cross. Each year, more than 100 Red Cross affiliated societies across the world organize events and ceremonies on the second Saturday of September to raise public awareness on how first aid can save lives in everyday crisis situations. 2 years earlier, in 1998, after a horrendous accident in which 28 very young lives were lost due to absence of informed adult intervention, Rashtriya Life Saving Society India, or RLSSI for short, was launched to train people in life-saving skills. With aspirations similar to that of Red Cross, the society has been training CPR AED resuscitators, trauma managers, first aiders, lifesavers, pool and beach lifeguards. Over 500,000 trained people over last 2 decades in the above skills attend to nearly 500,000 accident victims on land and in water in the country every year. Under oath to help a person in distress, these lifesavers intervene knowledgeably at accident sites across the country to save lives. Thousands of young volunteers have benefited through RLSSI's certified training courses by obtaining employment nationally and internationally. They are a asset to the society and hence safety in the community. Raising first aid awareness among people as we celebrate the 20th year of World First Aid Day shall help RLSSI to realize its dream of training a lifesaver in every home. Society has therefore organized this webinar to encourage people to learn first aid for their own safety and of those near them, to create a huge bank of lifesavers so that no matter where an accident victim falls, someone is there to help him and save his life. To persuade the youth to be volunteer lifesavers or good Samaritans and save lives as a routine. To urge other individuals and groups to work together to save lives and add value to life in the country, to raise the international stigma against us that life is cheap in India. I was once asked, why should we learn first aid? My response was that life is precious and it must be saved at all cost. General awareness of first aid among people contributes to our safety. Disasters, both natural and man-made, accidents, mishaps, and even sudden illnesses can impact anyone, anywhere, anytime without warning. Faced with such a situation, one has a choice. Do nothing, as you do not know what to do, or respond knowledgeably and effectively because you found time to learn basic life-saving skills or first aid. Remember, disasters that give us grief are only 15% natural, but 85% are man-made. So, we are the victims and the cause. Care and concern at both ends can indeed save many lives. The most vulnerable section of our population to mishaps and accidents is the youth, men and women in the age of 15 to 50 years. They are vulnerable because they are mostly breadwinners in a family, having to be on the move regardless of prevailing conditions. They are still gaining experience in life and living, with a tendency to take risks, often convinced of their invincibility. They have a zest to experience living in all its forms, in mountains, jungles, rivers, and the sea, all eminently justifiable, but not speed, alcohol, or drugs. The Swachh Bharat or Clean India program has been going on for some time, and we see some welcome results. Swasth Bharat or Healthy India has been launched recently, starting with its promotion in Madhya Pradesh. At this webinar, we are introducing Surakshit Bharat or Safe India. We need it to protect our youth if we are to remain a young nation. Simple life-saving skills, if acquired, can help your body in distress, both mental and physical. Most hospital admissions to the youth are due to road accidents, falls, and poisoning, all easily avoidable. In all these situations, a helping hand by a first aider can make the difference between life and death. Please learn life-saving skills and contribute to safety in the community. Let us take a pledge on this auspicious World First Aid Day that you will do so yourself and motivate others to join you. We look forward to your participation in our effort to build a community of informed, aware, confident, and skilled first aiders. After all, could there be a more gratifying feeling than that of having saved a life? I ask you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for learning first aid and its relevance to our safety and well-being. Today is indeed an appropriate day to launch the Surakshit Bharat campaign to add value to life in India. I agree that we should empower ourselves with life-saving skills to look after ourselves and those around us. Thank you once again. We have time for the second speaker now. Who would be in a better position to tell us the importance of the platinum period for the golden hour than the president of the Trauma Society of India and director of the Shushruth Institute of Medical Sciences? I have great pleasure in inviting Dr. Shushruth Babulkar, an eminent medical professional from Nagpur, to give his talk.
First of all, thank you very much. Firstly, to get me involved into this campaign of Surakshit Bharat. So I'm really delighted as president of Trauma Society of India, as well as being a very passionate health service provider. In fact, I was amongst the first lot who dedicated their own hospitals for COVID care. And that's why you are seeing me in this partly dressed attire. I have to go back immediately once I'm done 15 minutes with you because patients are waiting for me, and Nagpur is on peak. It's riding on its peak at this point in time. So let me suggest you what we as trauma surgeons or orthopedic surgeons do and what we expect out of a group like yours. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm a trained trauma surgeon. And when I did my training, which started with India, doing my MS orthopedics, and then I was in UK, and then I was in US, and then Germany, and then back to India. All these places, I realized that, of course, as President Sir elaborated, life is precious and life is respected. And that's why all these countries, apart from India, the trauma care has been financed well, has been very categorically established as a specialty, but also there is some scientific background to it. So pre-hospital care is extremely important. We want to receive a patient who is in a physiologically better status so that we can contribute more for the healing and a better outcome of the entire injury. So how do we decrease the morbidity and mortality of these victims is the question. So is this just a talk because we want to save lives and we want to decrease trauma and we want to propagate first aid? No, it's not only talk. It is extremely important because you never know what will happen. Reminds me a day when I was on call in Mayo Hospital, midnight. My boss had a habit that while going from his private clinic, he would wait in the casualty of Mayo Hospital, call the orthopedic surgeon on call, come here, how's everything, boy, any emergency, and he would then go home and sleep. Same thing happened. I was on call. I was RS Ortho on call. Professor came on his two-wheeler those days. Hey, everything okay? Any injury? Any emergency? No, sir, there is nothing. Just one patient came. She was hit and run, old lady, and she was brought dead, and we have sent her to mortuary. And that's the only patient which came since 9 p.m. Professor went home. Next day morning, routine of all us orthopedic surgeons. 8 o'clock OT started. We were sitting. Professor, I saw he was taking his tea, but he was extremely worried. I asked him, Professor, what's happening? He says, my mom is missing since last evening. I don't know. She went for evening walk, and I have reported to police station, nothing. I don't know. It struck me. I immediately went to mortuary and pulled out the dead bodies, and there was written name and surname of that lady. She was the same mother of my professor. So bottom line, you never know who the victim will be. So to answer to your question, stop. Make sure who is the victim. Make sure that you provide a first aid. You never know that victim can be your father, mother, friend, relative, someone who you really love. And that's the importance of first aid. Everyone must know, and you guys are doing a terrific job. Golden hour, the first hour when we as orthopedic surgeons receive the patient is called as golden hour. How did this concept came? American College of Surgeons, we were studying all over the world what mistake happens, why the morbidity and mortality of polytrauma victims, multiple injured patient is so bad. So in the game, in the whole evaluation, we thought that when the patient comes, he's seen by the casualty medical officer. Then the patient is referred to resident medical officer. Then the specialty like a resident orthopedic surgeon will come in. Then the lecturer will come in. Then the professor will come in. And in the whole period, actually, patient will not receive anything. Somebody starts normal saline, it's taken out. Second guy thinks that ringer lactate should be given. Third guy thinks that no 10% dextrose should be given. So we put all this discussion to an end, establishing the ATLS protocol, Advanced Trauma Life Support Protocol, that when a patient comes to casualty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things have to be done. Full stop. No questions asked. And that is all over the world. That brought down the morbidity and mortality of polytraumatized patients to a great extent because there was rules laid down. There were protocols laid down. There were steps laid down to look at an injured patient and to look at the patient when the patient comes to you, to me in the first golden hour, which is the most critical period. If we behave and respond physiologically, the first responders play a very vital role because they are going to see the patient mostly in this first golden hour. If they tackle the patient scientifically in a proper way, in a methodical way, effective golden hour reduces the morbidity and mortality by 60%. That's statistics. With this, let me quickly tell you the numbers. Now, this is the article which I wrote when we were writing. The entire world was compiling the data of trauma occurring and trauma systems all over the world. Let me quickly share my screen. These are the numbers. So approximately 6% of global road traffic accidents annually across in India, even though only 1% vehicles we have. So if you see the world, 6% is huge. The road traffic accident rate of 35 per 1000 vehicles and the RTA or accident fatality rate of 2.53 per 10,000. That's the death. In China, it is 6 deaths per 10,000. In India, it's 25.3. And in Europe and Americas, it is 0.5 and 1%. So you can imagine where we are today. That's huge. In 2011, in India, RTA related death occurred every 4 minutes. The burden of road traffic accidents continue to increase at an annual rate of 3%, leading to disabilities and fatalities and causing social, emotional, and economic losses. In 1997, 10.1% of all deaths in India were the result of injuries, and in nearly 80,000 lives were lost in 98, and 3 lakh 30,000 people injured. In 2011, the number has increased to 142,485 RT fatalities and these many road traffic injuries. And now you can imagine what must be the huge amount of not only uh, the burden on the economics, but the burden on the health system, the burden on first responders like you, and eventually burden on us as well. Now, all this plays a very great impact because mostly middle class or lower economical class families, one injury, and that's not injury to that person who is the victim, but it is also injury to the entire family. And to avoid that, your role as first aiders, responders is so very crucial. And I'm so grateful to be invited here and ask me to open my heart out. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
sir,
much
for
for
your
your.
valuable information and also appreciating the value of a first aider in stabilizing the victim. So it's time for the third speaker now. So kindly allow me to invite Dr. Arvind Kumar Kero. He's an associate professor at the prestigious All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, what we call AIIMS in short. He shall speak to us about the importance of first aid knowledge for head, face, and thorax injuries. So I will invite Dr. Kero.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge and to share your to know about this first aid. Importance of first aid cannot be overemphasized. Especially, it's a life-saving procedure. If you know that, then you can increase the chances of survival of the patient who is suffering from any injury, or whether that injury is visible to others or not. Like in my area, I am ENT surgeon. In my field, many times it's not visible that the patient is having some problem. The patient can have foreign body ingestion. That it can be visible also, like nasal discharge. So, or he may be having a bolus stuck inside his throat. So I will be discussing about this part, and I will be more about the management part, which can be given at the time in the home. It is more like giving first aid. So first, I will be starting with the nasal bleed. Majority of time, this nasal bleed are seen in the more dry seasons. Like so, these nasal bleed are because of area which in the nose, which we can press, we can apply pressure over it. So it is in the part which is collapsible. If you palpate your nose, so it has two components. One is bony, and another part is very collapsible. So the bleeding part in majority of case is in this in this midline. This area is known as septum. If you able to see that area, you can visualize the bleeding also. So in the patient who are bleeding, most of the time what you have to do is ask the patient to lean forward and apply with the thumb and the two finger over this collapsible area. If you keep on pressing this area for around 5 to 10 minutes, the bleeding will stop. It will, and if it doesn't stop on its own, then you have to go to the doctor. Majority of time it works very well. If the foreign body is inside the ear, like without any specialized skill, especially when the foreign body is spherical or is metallic with very smooth surface. If it is a vegetable or a peanut kind of thing, it can get swollen up and it can obstruct the ear also. And what you can do is we can put absolute alcohol when the patient, when this foreign body is having high water content, especially like vegetable, piece of a vegetable, then what will happen that the absolute alcohol will cause decrease in the size because of the dehydration, and you can remove it. And if you manipulate the foreign body without knowing it, it can damage the tympanic membrane, it can damage the facial nerve. If the facial nerve get damaged, then your face, the expression of the face will not be there. It can injure your ossicle also, which can lead to hearing loss. And many times it happens that this foreign body can be a living insect also. In such scenario, what you have to do is, without delaying, you can put some ether, and even in ancient time, people used to put oil inside the extremity canal so that the insect can drown in that, just to kill the insect. And after the patient, that insect has been killed, you can remove it. Without killing an insect, if you try to manipulate it, it can damage the intra-aortic, this tympanic membrane. If the foreign body inside the food pipe, then if it is large one and if it is blocking the, if it is so large that it doesn't go inside the esophagus as well as it doesn't go inside the airway, then it can leads to choking and Heimlich's maneuver, as described by my previous speaker. We can do Heimlich's maneuver.
So it's time to hear to Ms. Vijayashree Pahel. She is the Senior President, Aquatics FITSO. She is also the Licensed Social Worker for Healthcare Professionals Council of UK. Children under the age of 5 years are more prone to accidents. So Vijayashree, ma'am will talk about how important it is for parents of children of this age to acquire first aid training. Okay.
First of all, I want to thank Rashtriya Life Saving Society for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this much wanted and a very, very noble campaign, Surakshit Bharat. Thank you very much. Now, I'm not going to talk as a first aider, I'm going to talk as a mother, and I'm going to tell you my journey, how I became a first aider and why I became a first aider, most importantly. So I'll just share my screen. I've got a PPT, which okay, there we go. Parents have the focus of child safety and well-being by default. But are they prepared to deal with the medical emergencies? I don't think so. There are two questions. Not that there are many parents here. They all are first aiders, I guess, but still I would like to ask these two questions. And if you think your answer is yes, could you please go to the this thing, there's a thumbs up sign that you could go to and let us know whether you know it. Would you know what to do if a baby or child you were caring for stops breathing?
Yes.
I know, most of you. Would you know what to do if your pricey possession was choking? That's why I had a picture of my son with me in the first slide, to make the parents aware.
Yes.
Unfortunately, despite the parents' best efforts, accidents may still happen. Knowing or unknowingly, many a times we put babies and infants at risk. The risk could be a half-filled bucket of water lying in the bathroom door open, the main door left unlocked, the electric sockets not covered, the hot pan on the gas, and many, many, many more situations. An infant or toddler left unsupervised is a complete recipe for risking a child's life. Does everybody agree to that?
Yes.
Proper education on first aid for children and infants will serve as a safety net in case any accidents do happen. No matter how much we try not to, but there would still be situations where accidents would happen. Now, I just want you to go through these blurbs. They are from blogs. They are the blog headings of certain blogs that I've been reading over the years, where the parent had a story. Like it says, his face started turning purple. It shows the pain of the parent. Everything happened so quickly. I never want to hear that sound again. I panicked and did not know what to do. That was my story 23 years back. When my son was a year old, and me and my husband were living on our own in London, and I was alone at home, and my son, I went to the kitchen for a second and I heard him cry. When I came back, he was bleeding profusely. He somehow managed to get his tongue cut by that little tooth that was coming up. And seeing that blood, I didn't know what to do. I panicked. I froze. I had no idea what to do. I was alone. And I started crying. My son started crying, and it was a mess altogether. Luckily, sense prevailed and I called for the ambulance. London, it doesn't take much time. In 7 minutes, the ambulance was there. That night, we had learned a lesson, and I booked onto the first aid course, first available first aid course, and completed my first aid the following weekend. So that's the importance of first aid for parents, because a lot of researchers have, surveys and researchers have shown that accidents happen at home. And the mothers are there with the child. They're the first responders. They should be the first responders. So some of the few common childhood medical emergencies are not breathing infant, CPR has to be given, choking, bleeding, sudden infant death syndrome, convulsions, shocks, burns, minor cuts, very, very popular, scars, bruises, nose bleeding, eye injury, hypothermia, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, allergic reaction, poisoning, bites and stings, dog bites, and so on. The list can be never ending. Please go to the Rashtriya Life Saving Society India's Facebook page to see small videos for almost all the emergencies that a parent can face. So thank you very much, RLSS, for doing this, taking this up and creating these videos. A lot of people are using them and they are helpful for parents, newbies.
All right. Thank you so much, Vijayashree ma'am. That was really, really very refreshing and informative presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay.
On 7th August 2020, Air India Express Boeing 737 crashed in Kerala, which caused injuries and took many precious lives. We have two doctors over there, Dr. Ahmed Arikit from Kerala and Dr. Mohammad Anfal, who are with us. And so I will not say much. Let them introduce yourself and they will tell about their experience during this unfortunate incident.
Thank you very much. Let me thank the organizers for calling me to share my experience. Mrs. Kavita Sharma, Tom Joseph, Vidotma, and Dr. Anfal. Thank you very much. I am an anesthetist at Relief Hospital, Kondoti. This is just 5 kilometers away from the airport. And that day, that was, I'll just come to the point. Okay, it was on August 7th. This airport air crash happened in our place, and that was 7th of August. So what happened was, that was an evening about 7:30, 7:45. I was about to leave the hospital, and a call came from my brother who was away in Tamil Nadu. And he asked me whether I knew a crash in our airport. I was not knowing a crash has happened just 5 kilometers away from my place, my hospital. Then I was shocked. Actually, I was not expecting, we never expect a crash or disaster at first place, you know. Immediately I stopped back in our hospital and informed all the code blue was alarmed. So all the doctors, whoever we could gather at that time, rushed to our casualty. By the time number of vehicles, not only ambulances, vehicles started rushing into our casualty, and within few minutes, you can say 15 minutes, our casualty was overwhelmed with patients. Even though I am trained in trauma because I am an anesthetist, I didn't know at the first minute what to do with such a load of patients coming. with all sorts of trauma, polytrauma. So then I made up my mind quickly, and I said my team that I will tell what to do, and you do exactly what I am going to say. Triage was done in a proper way. That means we will separate the patients into 3 categories, where the dead people are not taken care of, and that is how we do in the casualty. And those whom we can save are put in a yellow, red, yellow, and green will not be again. We will not look at the green people who are walking in or talking properly. So that triaging was done, and only IV fluids and IV fluids were given. I asked them to put an IV cannula and rush fluids, normal saline, to maintain their blood pressure and pulse rate. And I asked them to talk to the patients. If they can talk properly, that means their perfusion, that blood flow is okay. That is what we could do. And in 20 minutes or so, many other people, many other doctors from surroundings rushed in. And in half an hour, we had a lot of doctors helping us from outside also. Apart from doctors, our own people at Kondoti were in the front line of in saving all these patients. What I heard was they removed the fence at the airport and rushed in to take the patients in whatever vehicle they got. And they did it in such a wonderful way that they even took care of the patient without bending their spine or causing less harm. They had taken measures to prevent secondary injuries, I think. That is how we could save such a lot of patients because of the awareness of the patient, the people around here about how to deal a trauma patient. Then what we did was just to maintain their blood pressure, and bleeding parts were given pressure bandages, and also many of them had polytrauma. Polytrauma means multiple fractures of big bones like the leg bones, femur, and one patient had all the 4 limbs fractured, and dislocations and head injuries. 6 head injuries we had, and we could only stabilize them and send them to higher centers. I feel is that somehow these people around them know how to take a patient after a trauma to the hospital. Because of all this, many groups are there, including NGOs, who give trauma training to local population. And we have a lot of my friends are there who are other than doctors, who are trauma care persons, and they are so much trained in that when they will take care of everything that should be.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so that really shows that the importance of being a first aider around this incident. Yeah.
This is Purushottam Sharma, President of Rashtriya Life Saving Society. I would like to address everybody who had took the trouble to link in to this particular session of 1.5 hours from across the country, and some people have even connected from abroad. My grateful thanks to them for showing interest in what we've been doing and what we think is very, very important. A lot of gratitude from the society, and this is only the beginning. And I think we should have such connects more often, so that the effort to popularize the concept of life-saving and learning and the importance of learning life-saving becomes more prevalent, more acceptable, more recognized, and more implemented. And that is what we are trying to aim at. When we talk about Surakshit Bharat, that's what I'm trying to do. The entire country should be full of first aiders. My dream is to reach a lifesaver in every home. And we are serious about it. We're going about it in a very systematic manner. We go to schools, colleges, institutions, housing societies, corporate houses, no matter where. The theme is the same. Learn how to save a life. Learn the basic life-saving skills that help to save lives. And thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, who have taken the trouble to join in. I wish you all the very best. And remember that life-saving is an important aspect of one's living. And safety of yourself and people in your vicinity should become a priority. And with that, I call off and say thank you very much for joining in. Thank you once again.